मैम
मैम
हम
विदाउट
फिक्स करके
moving our eye or head is field of fixation, is field of vision to fixate
Okay.
any target.
Okay, and what is field of fixation?
Head is straight and eye is moving to fixate any target is field of fixation.
Very good. So field of view is basically whatever area you can see with both the eyes is your field of view. Your field of vision is whatever area you can see by keeping your head and eye straight. And field of fixation is something, the area which is visible to you while you are keeping your head stationary or head fixed and eye is moving. So by keeping your head straight, whatever area you can see is your field of fixation. Okay, so basically the motor system of the eye, it works as by changing the or by enlarging the field of view. So whatever is the observable area appear or present before you, it changes it to into field of vision. That is, it transforms it to into the area which can be seen with head and eye fixed, and then that is changed into field of fixation. So you can see anything whenever it is onto the fovea. So that is how it works. So it enlarges the field of view, it enlarges the field total area available for viewing, it enlarges that by changing the field of vision into field of fixation. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So moving to next is your voluntary and involuntary eye movement. So voluntary is something which is on your will, and involuntary is which is not in your control or which is not in your will. So for voluntary movement, you will or the person will initiate those movements on his own, presumably as a result of chain of impulses that originates in the cortex. Okay, so for that matters, if you have to most of you can look at your nose and you can converge your eyes. Fine, so you have a voluntary convergence. Similarly, there are other eye movements which is produced on your will, and these are originated in the cortex. And then there are involuntary movements which are not willed by the individuals, and even without your awareness there are certain movements which are taking place in your eyes. So for such example, there is a micronystagmus which always takes place or which always occurs in your eyes. Okay, once you have read about the keratometry, there you have read about some poroprisms. Okay, and then you have read that the function of poroprism is to avoid the nystagmoid movement of the eye. So what are those nystagmoid movement? These are the throw and throw movement of the eye which is taking place without your own will. For such involuntary movement, other example could be your pupillary dilatation and reflection, right? Pupillary hiccups. If you have heard this term, pupillary hiccups, what is it? There is a constant contracting and relaxation, or like constricting and dilatation of pupil. It takes place even without any stimulation. So that is something involuntary. So like that, there are involuntary eye movements which are not willed by the individual, but it occurs without your awareness. For that example, if you have to look at something which is present near, your eye has to converge, your eye has to accommodate, and your pupil has to constrict. So this constriction of pupil and accommodation of the eye is not by your will, or you're not aware about it, but still it is happening. So that is something involuntary. Okay, and it is elicited mainly by exteroceptive stimuli. That is something stimulus which is arising outside the world. Example is your visual or auditory stimulus, or it could be interoceptive stimulus which is arising within the body, for example vestibular. Okay, so is that clear? Voluntary and involuntary eye movement. Basically, voluntary eye movements are the movement which can be produced on your will, and involuntary eye movements are something which is not produced by your will, or the something which is no you are not aware of. Okay, and voluntary movement, it is a result of chain of impulses that originates in cortex, and involuntary eye movement can be because of the exteroceptive or stimuli which is arising outside the body, like visual or auditory, or it could be interoceptive, that is which is rising within the body, for example your vestibular. Okay, Now we'll talk about the evaluation of binoculars vision. Okay, so what I want you to concentrate on these images, and this is basically for the student from Sangli. Can you tell me the difference between the picture which is up and which is down? So these are the three pictures: deer, cow, and pigeon. It is one set of picture, and then you have picture of lion and owl. So basically, I want you to tell difference between these three picture and these two picture. Yes, of course, they are different animal. Apart from that, any other difference which you can make out quickly? Even if you cannot answer, that's completely fine. Can anyone spot the difference?
मैम हेलो
Yes, yes.
ऊपर के जो थ्री पिक्चर्स है तो उसमें
Mm-hmm.
पेरिफेरली आईज प्लेस्ड है एंड
Okay.
नीचे सेंट्रली है.
Very good. May I know who has answered this? What's your name?
ऋतुजा बिरादार.
Okay. Very good, Rituja. So as Rituja said correctly, the first three pictures, the eyes are laterally placed, okay, and the last two pictures, the eyes are frontally placed, okay. So this is one difference. Any other difference? Can anyone spot quickly? No. Okay. So as you can see, the first three pictures, the eyes are laterally placed, and the last two picture, the eyes are frontally placed. Okay. And the other difference, what I was talking about, is the difference between their eating habit, or the group of, or the category, or the classification they belong to. The first three, they are the prey animals or the lower animals. They don't hunt. They are not hunters. Okay. And the last two, they are the hunters, or the predator animal. So this is the another difference. And since these are the prey animals, or these are the animals who has to look for food, and they have to prevent, or they have to protect themselves from the hunters, so they have the eyes which is placed laterally. And since they have laterally placed eyes, what happens, it gives them a more peripheral view, which they need for their protection from the predators and to search for their food. Okay, so since they need wider field of peripheral vision, their eyes are placed laterally. Okay, but these animals, they are the hunters, or they are the predator animals. That means they have to hunt for their food. Okay, so they have to have the depth perception or distance perception accurate. So that's why they have frontally placed eyes. Okay, or all the higher animal, including human, they have frontally placed eye. Why? Because they have to pounce on their prey, or they have to pounce on their food. So for that, they need better depth perception, better stereopsis, better distance judgment. So because of that, they have more frontally placed eye as compared to the lower animals, which have more peripheral or laterally placed eyes. So next time, whenever you are looking at different animals, just look at their eye, and then they, by looking at the placement of their eye, you can judge about their fooding habits, or the type of classification they belong to. Okay, so lower animals eyes are pointed in opposite direction, 360 field of view, because they need more field of peripheral view, because to protect themselves from the predators and to look for food, they have wider peripheral food. And most predatory animals, including human beings, their eyes are in same direction, or it is frontally placed, because although with the frontally placed eye, the field of view is not much, but it gives them stereopsis, which is much needed for them. Okay, and this is the diagram, which is of a rabbit. So the total field of view is more, but it is without stereopsis. And since the eyes are peripheral, So the binocular field of view is very less as compared to the monocular field. But in case of human who has a frontally placed eye, the binocular field of view is more as compared to the monocular field. Is it clear? So why different animals have differently placed eyes? Clear? In case if you have any confusion or question, you can ask me right now, or you can just note it down. We can have that, we can discuss that at the end of the lecture. Okay. So with that, before we move on forward and describe about the grades of binocular single vision, there are few terms which we need to define before defining the grades of binocular single vision. And first such term is line of direction. Okay, so line of direction is what? It is simply a line that connects the object point with its image on the retina. Okay, so any object is there and it is imaged onto the retina. So the line which is passing from object to image on retina is your line of direction, and it is of two types. It could be primary or principal line of direction, or it could be secondary line of direction. So when the object point or image is onto the fovea, that is the primary line of direction. And if the image point is any other point apart from fovea or other than fovea, then it is secondary line of direction. Okay, so in this picture, suppose if f is the object, so of f is the object and it is being projected on the fovea, so this is the line of direction. So object point to image point on retina is the line which is known as line of direction. And if that object is imaged onto the fovea, it is primary line of direction. And if it is apart from fovea or any other point, any point other than fovea, then it is secondary line of direction. So the primary line of direction is this f, and this n and p are the secondary line of direction. Why? Because it is not imaged onto the fovea, or it is the line that cannot connect the image point on the fovea. So that is why it is secondary line of direction. Okay. Now next topic is relative subjective visual direction. Okay, so whenever a retinal area is stimulated by any object, object is not perceived only of a specific color, size, shape, brightness, but it is also oriented in a specific direction. Okay, and that direction is known as subjective visual direction or relative subjective visual direction. Okay, so whenever there is any object, if you are perceiving it, so that object will not only be perceived of being of a specific color, shape, size, brightness, but it will always be located in a specific direction, and that direction is known as relative subjective visual direction. Okay, and whenever the object is, or the stimulated retina is towards the right side, the object will be located in the opposite field, that is it will be opposite to it. So if the stimulated part of retina is towards the right side, it will be projected in the left of the field, and if the stimulated retina is left half, then it will be projected in the right of the field. For example, just to explain the relative subjective visual direction, so if your stimulated retina is towards the temporal side of the fovea, it will be projected in the nasal side of the field. And if the stimulated retina is nasal to the fovea, it will be towards the temporal side. Okay. So the retinal visual direction is opposite to the part of retina which is being stimulated. So that is what is your relative subjective visual direction. So whenever you have a object which stimulates the retina, so it will appear, or it will be located in a direction which is opposite to the retinal stimulation. For example, if the stimulated part of retina is towards the right side or temporal of the fovea, it will be seen in the nasal or the left part of the fovea, and vice versa. If it is located in the nasal, or if the stimulated retina is nasal, then it will be projected in the temporal half of the field. Okay. So that's the same thing. Whenever a retinal area is stimulated by light entering the stimulus, entering the eye, the stimulus is perceived not only as a being of a certain brightness and color and of a certain form, but also always being localized in a certain visual direction, and that visual direction is known as relative subjective visual direction. And if the stimulated retinal area is located to the left of fovea, it is seen in the right half of the field, and if it is located to the right of the fovea, it is seen in the left half of the field. Okay. The direction in which visual object is localized is determined by the directional or spatial value of stimulated retinal element, and these directional values are intrinsic property inherent to the retinal element, as are all properties that leads to sensation of brightness, color, and form of a percept. So like all these sensations you have, the brightness, color, and form sensation, similarly this directional value is also there, and which is an intrinsic property, which is an inherent property of the retinal element. Okay. Then there is other term which is known as retinomotor value. Okay. So what happens, as we have discussed, is whenever any object is onto the fovea, it is seen clear because our image is better or best, or you will have a clear image only on the fovea. On the other points, the image clarity will be not that good. So you will have crystal clear image only on fovea. Okay. So I always prefers to have foveal fixation, or I always prefers to have fixation onto the fovea, or the object is always imaged onto the fovea. So if something is on the fovea, the eye doesn't have to move to bring it on the fovea. In this example, if we consider these two points, the point F and point P, right? So point F is already onto the fovea. So in this case, the eye doesn't have to move to bring it onto the fovea. But for P, since the P is present in the nasal side of the fovea, it will stimulate the temporal fovea. Okay, it will not be onto the fovea. So in order to bring this object onto fovea, what will happen? The eye has to move in. Okay, so if the eye moves like this fovea which was here will now be here, and then the image will be clear. Okay. So the amount by which the eye moves to bring object of regard onto the fovea is your retinomotor value. Okay. So the appearance of an object in periphery of visual field attracts attention, and the eye is turned towards the object so that it may be imaged onto the fovea. The amount by which the eye is turned to bring image on the fovea is known as retinomotor value. Okay. So it is basically the amount by which the eye has to move so that the foveal fixation is achieved or image is focused onto the fovea. That amount is known as retinomotor value. Okay. And retinomotor value of fovea is 0. Why? Because the image is already on the fovea. The eye doesn't have to move to maintain the foveal fixation. So retinomotor value at fovea is 0. But if something is in the periphery, the eye has to move more. So more the peripheral object, the eye has to make more or larger excursion. So that's why the retinomotor value of a retinal element, it increases from center to periphery. Okay. At center it is 0 because the image is already onto the fovea, and from center to periphery it increases because if it is in periphery it has to make more excursion or larger excursion. So that's why the retinomotor value of retinal element, it increases from center towards the periphery. Okay. Clear? Anything you want me to repeat? Fine. Next such term is common relative subjective visual direction. So relative subjective visual direction, what we talked about was for single eye. It was applicable for one eye. So whenever you have an retinal area which is stimulated, whether it is present towards the nasal or the temporal side of the field, it will be projected in an opposite direction. So that was the thing for one eye. And when we talk about the common relative subjective visual direction, it is for the two eyes. So by definition, common relative subjective visual direction is all object points that stimulate the two fovea, it will appear in same direction. Okay, and this direction belongs to both the right and left fovea, and therefore called as common subjective visual direction. And every retinal point or every retinal area has a partner in the fellow retina with which it shares a common relative subjective visual direction. Okay, so talking about the common subjective visual direction, so the two fovea, if so these are the two foveas. Okay, so these are the two foveas. What will happen? It will have visual direction in this direction, and this will also have a visual direction in this direction. Okay, so these two will have same visual direction, and that's why it is common subjective visual direction. Similarly, the temporal part of this eye will be projected in this, right, and the nasal part of this retina will have a visual direction in this direction. So these 2 points, the nasal half of right retina and the temporal half of the left retina, they are sharing a common subjective visual direction. Both the visual direction in the same direction. Okay. Similarly, the temporal half of this retina and the nasal half of this retina will be directed in the same direction. So they are also having, or they will also share the common subjective visual direction. Okay. And if the object, two different objects, they are located at in front of the two visual directions. So if the two objects are not equidistant, they'll be seen one after other. And if it is equidistant, if the two objects are equidistant, it will be seen one top of other. So in this case, there is a square which is present in front of the left eye, and there is a triangle which is present in the right eye. Okay, and since these two eyes or these two foveas, it shares a common visual direction, so it will appear as if the square is on top of the triangle. Okay, so you will have something like this. But if the two objects are not equidistant, so the square is here and triangle is behind the square, since they are on the same or the common subjective visual direction, it will be seen as the square first and the triangle after that.